this video, I'm not going to do it myself. You know, I could go into all the details about the stories, but this is just two stories that Muhammad ended up messing up because, you know, keep in mind the dude, he couldn't read, he couldn't write. He had all this stuff in his mind, and, you know, also with Arabic, the words Miriam, or the names Miriam and Mary are actually the exact same. Kind of like Joshua and Jesus gets mixed up and stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and play one of my favorite pastors. He was banned off YouTube, but he explains this a lot better. He uses physical ways to explain it and everything. You know, he's just a lot better at this. But I'll go ahead and play these two videos, and then I promise that I'll do the rest of this myself. I'm not just going to re-upload stuff. But yeah.
Chapter 19 of the Quran, around verse 27, it talks about how Mary goes out into the desert and basically comes back with a baby. You know, totally different than the Bible's teaching of you know, the manger and, you know, no room in the inn and Joseph's there and all that. Totally different story in the Quran, of course. But in the Quran, carrying the child, listen to this, carrying the child, she came to her people who said to her, Mary, you have indeed done a shameful deed. You know, because she leaves and comes back with a kid. No Joseph in this story. Just, you know, Mary leaves, goes out in the desert, comes back with a baby. Mary, you've indeed done a shameful deed, sister of Aaron. Your father, or sister of Aaron? So not only is it saying Amram's her dad, it's saying Aaron's her brother. Yeah. Because he truly did mix up Miriam of the Old Testament and Miriam of the New Testament, because in Arabic it's the same name. There's a footnote at the bottom of the page here in this edition of the Quran. It appears that Miriam, Aaron's sister, and Miriam, mother of Jesus, were, according to the Quran, one and the same person. Well, that's amazing that they lived so many hundreds and hundreds of years apart, that they could be the same person. But when you're illiterate and you can't read the Bible, you're going to make mistakes like that when you're just going on hearsay of a vague knowledge of the Bible. Sister of Aaron, your father was never a whoremonger, nor was your mother a harlot. She made a sign to them pointing to the child because she can't talk. She's been struck with dumbness. So she's pointing to the baby. But they replied, how can we speak with a babe in the cradle? We can't talk to this baby. Why are you pointing at the baby? Whereupon he, the baby, spoke and said, so this is the newborn baby Jesus. I am the servant of God. Okay, bring Boaz up here. I need a visual aid. Where's Boaz? Where's baby Boaz? Is he in the mother-baby room? Oh, he's in the exercsaucer. All right, bring baby Boaz. Now, this isn't really a good illustration because, you know, this is at least, I need... Does somebody want to loan me a small baby? No, you know, this is the youngest kid I've got, folks. You know. So I just need a visual aid here. You know, but you know, in the Quran, it's a newborn. Okay? So here's what's going on in the Quran. I am the servant of God. He has given me the book and ordained me a prophet. His blessing is upon me wherever I go. And he has exhorted me to be steadfast in prayer and to give alms as long as I shall live. He has exhorted me to honor my mother and has purged me of vanity and wickedness. Peace be on me on the day I was born and on the day of my death. And on the day I shall be raised to life. All right, so I just wanted to make it a little more real to you. Come get him, Miriam. Oh, I wonder, your name's Miriam? I read about you in Exodus. You're in Matthew too. Same Miriam, right? I mean, look, saying that the Miriam of Exodus is the Miriam of Jesus' mother is like saying that this is the same Miriam. The time frame of just being many hundreds and hundreds of years later, it's a similar mistake. Here's your baby, Miriam. All right? Go back to the desert. According to this. But let's get into the Joseph story. Let me find it. It's on page 156 in here. Let me just read for you this awesome book, the Quran. Oh, it's so amazing. An unlettered man wrote this book.
You all know the story of Joseph, right? Let me give you the real story just super fast, just to catch up. Okay. Joseph was sold into slavery by his brethren. I'm giving you the real story, the Bible story, okay? Joseph is sold into slavery by his brethren, and he ends up serving in a man's house whose name is Potiphar. And he's really good at his job, so he ends up running everything. And I mean, Potiphar just trusts him with that. He doesn't even check his bank account because he just knows Joseph's got everything under control. Well, Potiphar's wife wants to commit adultery with Joseph. So she keeps bugging him about it and trying to flirt with him, and he's just trying to tell her, no, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. So then finally she grabs him by his clothes and says, lie with me. So he just runs away from her, and she basically rips the coat off his back, and she's left holding his coat. He runs out of the house. Well, she's so offended about being rejected that she calls in all the servants and lies and says, oh, he tried to force himself on me, and he was stripping off his clothes, and that's why his clothes are here. He ran away, and I grabbed his coat. Okay? And then, of course, what happens? Potiphar gets angry. He's angry at Joseph. He believes his wife and throws Joseph in prison. Joseph spends years rotting in prison because of that incident, right? Everybody kind of know the story. It's coming back to you, okay? Listen to the Quran version. The woman in whose house he served attempted to seduce him. She bolted the doors and said, come. God forbid, he replied. My Lord has treated me with kindness. Wrongdoers shall never prosper. She made for him, and he himself would have succumbed to her had he not seen the sign of his Lord. So it's saying he would have actually done it in the Quran version. He's kind of into it, but God shows him a sign, so he doesn't do it. Seeing the sign of the Lord. Thus did we shield him, we is God. Thus did we shield him from evildoing and lechery, for he was one of our faithful servants. They both rushed to the door. She tore his shirt from behind, and at the door they met her husband. So in this story, as he's running out, she tears his shirt, and the husband's just right there at the door when he gets there. She said, shall not the man who wished to violate your wife be thrown into prison or sternly punished? Joseph said, it was she who attempted to seduce me. And by the way, this is the most entertaining part in the whole Quran, just so you know. And it's just basically stealing from a Bible story and screwing it up. Most of it's not even this interesting. If his shirt was torn from the front, said one of her people who was present, she's speaking the truth and he's lying. And if his shirt is torn from behind, then she's lying and he's speaking the truth. And when her husband saw that Joseph's shirt was rent from behind, he said to her, this is but one of your tricks. So this is him telling his wife, she's lying. This is but one of your tricks. Your cunning is great indeed. Joseph, say no more about this. Woman, ask pardon for your sin. You've assuredly done wrong. So this is him expounding the Bible to you. No, he's just contradicting it and telling a totally different story that negates it. Okay, so everybody got that? Woman, you've done wrong. You need to repent. In the city, women were saying, and I'm not skipping anything, I'm reading the whole thing because it's going to stop making sense, but that's not my fault, okay? In the city, women were saying, the prince's wife has sought to seduce her servant. So everybody around town saying what? Oh yeah, she tried to do this to him. She has conceived a passion for him. We can see that she has clearly gone astray. When she heard of their intrigues, she gave them to a banquet prepared at her house. To each she gave a knife and ordered Joseph to present himself before them. When they saw him, they were amazed at him and cut their hands, exclaiming, God preserve us. This is no mortal, but a gracious angel. Okay, does everybody understand so far the story? So everybody in town's like, oh man, she tried to commit adultery. Nobody believes her. Husband doesn't believe her. Everybody believes Joseph. She's a floozy. She's a whore, whatever. So then she's like, well, I know what I'll do. I'll invite all these women that are talking smack about me to a banquet, and I'm going to give them all a knife. And then I'm going to bring Joseph in and say, this is the guy that I was going to commit adultery with, or that accused me. And then they all pull out the knife and chop open their hand. Because they look at him and they're like, what did they say when they looked at him? They said, this is no mortal, but a gracious angel. Slice. This is he, she said, on whose account you blamed me. I attempted to seduce him. She's admitting it, right? I attempted to seduce him, but he was unyielding. If he declines to do my bidding, he shall be thrown into prison and shall be held in scorn. Lord, said Joseph, sooner would I go to prison than to give in to their advances. Shield me from their cunning, or I shall yield to them and lapse into folly. Oh God, please help me. Don't commit adultery with this woman. After all this, like he still thinks he might do it? Are you listening to this? His Lord answered his prayer, and warding off their cunning from him. Surely he it is who hears all and knows all. Now, it's already dumb enough to this point, but the next verse is just going to blow you away. I mean, has everybody understood everything up to this point? Just listen to the next verse. And don't get mad at me for saying Muslims are stupid, for saying American Muslims must be stupid, because just listen to the next verse. Yet, for all the evidence they'd seen, they thought it right to jail him for a time. And then he rolls into the story about how he's in prison with the two other prisoners, you know the baker and the butler. That story makes no sense. Because listen, in the Bible story, it makes sense, right? Yeah. She lies, there's no witnesses. So who's the husband going to believe? His wife. Joseph gets thrown into prison because everybody thinks he's guilty. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's a good story. That makes sense. Okay, in the Quran story, nobody believes her. Everybody believes Joseph. She calls the whole town together and says, I did it. I'm guilty. I seduced him. But then after all that, it's just one sentence. Yeah, but they threw him in jail anyway. Why? Because he just has to figure out a way to get from his stupid story to the jail story. Like his story got off course. He lost the plot. Like his story's off course because he's like, oh, whoops, Joseph's supposed to end up in jail. And the way I'm doing it, everybody believes him and nobody believes her. But then he's just like, well, but he went to jail anyway. Okay, not important. He went to jail anyway. And then he just rolls right into the jail story. I mean, he butchers every Bible story. And you know, it makes me mad because I love the Bible. I love God. I love the Son of God. And I don't like this book. And if you read it as long as I did, you'd be as mad as I am. And then it's so funny because like a few pages later, here's what he says. This is no invented tale, but a confirmation of what came before it. So does this confirm the Joseph story that you've read in the Bible? No, it doesn't. It negates and contradicts it. And that's just a small sampling. There's stuff like that for Moses, Abraham, Lot, everything. Every story totally butchered.